So, welcome back to another episode of The Liberated Women. I'm really excited as today I am joined by a guest, Gemma. Gemma is an energy alignment coach, a quantum healer for leaders of the new paradigm who are making a difference using their sensitivities as superpowers. She's passionate about using positive psychology, energy work, and the quantum to become authentic and flourishing. Welcome, Gemma.
Thank you, Shanice. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Do you want to explain a little bit about what a quantum healer is, or what you mean by leaders of the new paradigm for those listeners who are maybe unfamiliar with this kind of language?
Yeah, so leaders of the new paradigm, I imagine if you are a leader of the new paradigm, you're probably here listening. And this is all about that the world has shifted and the world is in the process of shifting. And there are those of us who have come to the planet to lead the way. So this is about walking the untrodden path, going first. I talk about this, it's almost a bit like, a pathway through the woods. The first time we walk it might be a bit clunky. There might be some, weeds and twigs and branches in our way. But we are walking that path for others to follow and to lead the way and show that there is something different. So you'll resonate with being a leader of the new paradigm if you're watching or listening. If you've always felt a little bit like weird or different or like the black sheep of the family, I know I certainly did. And that is for a reason. That is because you are here to do big things, and you're here to do things in a way that has not been done before. But we're all here together as leaders doing this together.
Yeah.
But it can feel like a bit of an alone journey. And that is because you are a leader, because you're here to lead the way for others.
Yeah, I love that explanation. I think your version of that is just my way of saying the cycle breakers, or the ones that have come here at this time to break the chains and to stop the patterns and to change the narrative and to rewrite the script. And there's so many women out there right now who are doing this work, and men too. But obviously, this podcast is specifically aimed at women to become more liberated in their lives. And part of that might be stepping into some kind of leadership. And it doesn't necessarily mean leadership, I guess, in the sense of someone in power or in authority in that kind of way that we might see leadership, but someone who is, as you said, like taking the untrodden path or leading the way for a new way of being, a new life, a new paradigm, as we've called it, as this world is constantly shifting and changing, and the narrative and the patriarchal systems are crumbling. And I think more and more women are awakening to that fact.
Yeah, definitely. I love that way you brought that to life there in your own words as well, Shani. Yeah.
Yeah. So today's episode, we really wanted to dive into how to align your energy as you are awakening and as you're awakening into your feminine. Obviously, your spiritual awakening and your feminine awakening may not be the same thing, but there might be aspects of your spiritual awakening that lead you to a feminine awakening, that lead you to understanding the energies of the masculine and the feminine, understanding where you might be living in your wounded energy. And as you awaken, you obviously start to be more open in your energy field. And as you're more open in your energy field, there will be other energies that come into your space that may not necessarily serve you as you are awakening. So we kind of want to speak into that today, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. So I just kind of maybe ask you about your journey and what led you to this awareness in your awakening journey.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of us, I was very curious and very excited. I was going through like a really like tough time on like a human level when I was awakening. I had quite extreme anxiety. I started to like feel everything. I was working in London a lot at the time, and it was very chaotic. It was very like, whoa. But at the same time, there was this excitement and this curiosity about like what I was feeling and what I was going through. And having this awareness that there's more out there that I can connect with, and that curiosity was really what led me into that path. And there is that phrase, isn't there, curiosity killed the cat. And I think maybe I was a little bit too curious, and I was really looking for answers. So I was like, right, I need to know more, like what is out there, like what can I communicate with. And I actually went quite naively into that journey. And this is why I think it's really important to speak about it, especially those that are awakening, in their early days of awakening. I went into it and I was like looking for the answers, and I was looking for someone to help me. I was looking for like mentors, teachers, like gurus, to tell me the answers. And what I actually then did was put that power outside of myself, both with on a human level. So I was like, right, this person is more advanced than me, so they're going to have all the answers, and they're going to tell me how to meditate or tell me how to connect in and what I need to do. And I gave that power away energetically as well. So when I actually went into to like meditate and connect in, I think because I was so, and I hear this a lot, like so curious about, oh, like what's in there, what can I connect with? I opened myself up to things that I now know I should not have opened myself up to. So that's really, and before all that, I studied positive psychology. And like unknown to me, I was actually creating some really like grounded roots for my kind of spiritual tree to grow. So unknown to me. So even though I was kind of going through this chaos and like looking for answers, by having that positive psychology element in my life, like in my habits, in my morning routine, that helped keep me really grounded. But I was still kind of going through this chaos at the same time. So I now like to kind of bring that positive psychology in with the energy, and spread awareness about this, because, and I see it happening everywhere, like with women awakening and then going, right, I need to find someone that's going to tell me the answers. Actually, all those answers are within you.
Yeah,
you don't need someone to tell you the answers. You have your own way of connecting in, and you only want to be connecting to source energy. And not only that, but as you're getting more and more like in tune with your gifts, you start to feel everything. And I went on this journey of like not even being able to go to the supermarket because the energy was just so intense. I couldn't ground it enough, I couldn't transmute it enough, and I had to sort of have that. I think lockdown was a bit of a blessing in a way, because it gave me the opportunity to actually like detach and give myself the chance to like transmute all this energy that was coming in and was coming through. So where I'm at now is, and this is, you asked me the question about quantum healing and I didn't answer that earlier. I just realized this was how I found quantum healing, because it was like, what can I do about all of this like barrage of energy that's like, I feel like is constantly hitting me, and I'm feeling everything and I'm feeling everyone, and I'm going to certain places and I'm picking up energy there, and like what can I do? And I tried all sorts of different things, like protecting myself, creating a bubble around me. That never worked, and that I now understand is because I'm here to transmute the energy rather than like block it. It has to come through me, but I obviously then have to be really careful about how much I'm letting in and through, and really take care of myself like maximum. And yeah, that was when I found quantum healing, because I found it's the only thing that could clear energy that I'd picked up, but also past traumas, conditioning, past lives, things that were actually creating my sensitivities in like in this life, in this present moment, that I could clear off. And it's the only thing that I found that actually specifically names all the energies in your field, in your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, tells you where those energies are and what caused them, so you can clear them out. And that for me is really the truth of what spiritual development is and alignment is. It's not about let's connect to more, it's let's clear. And when we clear, we become that clear channel. Our gifts naturally come online. So we're not looking at trying to achieve like building our spiritual gifts. We're just focused on clearing, working on ourselves, and then it naturally comes online. I feel like that's the truth that we don't see. So that's, sorry, long answer to that's kind of been my journey to this place.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. There's a few things in there that I wanted to pick out from what you said. yeah, going back to the beginning of your story, when it's exciting, and when you start to awaken, and those of you that are listening might resonate with this, it's like you want it all, right? And I remember my awakening journey as well. First you start with the crystals, and then you want the tarot cards, and then you don't really understand anything about tarot, but you don't really realize that it's probably darker than it actually looks on the outside. And then you want the oracle cards, and then you want the Reiki, and then you want the this and the that and the this and the that. And it's all kind of like you want it all because you're excited and you don't know where to turn. And you mentioned about outsourcing your power, and that's something that I speak about a lot. In our wounded feminine, we tend to look outside of ourselves. I did a podcast episode about it where I related it to Rapunzel in the tower, kind of waiting for someone to come and save her. And you mentioned, someone to tell me what to do, how to meditate, what to do, and how to be. And I think you're right about this idea of clearing out so that you can become the channel and the vessel for what wants to come through, and knowing that you have the discernment to only call through benevolent energies into your being. It's something that I talk about a lot in the breathwork sessions as well. I know you came and had a breathwork session.
It was amazing.
Yeah, and it was like that clearing out, right? And you had quite a deep purge, clear out post the session, which I guess led on to other things or understandings for you. And I always, like you said about this kind of path, and maybe there's twigs and there's leaves, you mentioned it at the beginning. I use the same sort of analogy, but with a garden and the weeds. And, if we don't clear out the weeds from the roots, whether that's conditioning from this lifetime, past lives, whether that is beliefs and stories we're holding on to, or vows or curses that we took in other realms and dimensions and lifetimes, we're here now to clear that. And the more that you're able to clear that, as you said, the clearer your vessel, the clearer your channel, the lighter you become, and the easier it is for you to actually access your truth, right? The truth of who you are. But for a person who is at the beginning of their awakening journey, for a woman who is on their journey to becoming more liberated, to awakening their feminine, to awakening their spirituality, what advice could you perhaps give them around understanding if energy that comes into their field is theirs or isn't theirs to connect with? Because, something that we come up with a lot as we awaken is this idea of false light. And for those of you that don't know what we mean by false light, not everything in your spiritual awakening and not everyone in your spiritual awakening is there to serve you. Not everyone has your highest and your best interests at heart. There are the more that you start to shine your light and clear yourself and shine your brightness, unfortunately, the more that happens, the more the darkness will come in and try and sabotage that, because we know that there's always the darkness. It's in every fairy tale, it's in every story. We know the darkness always wants to come in and try and take over and have that power. And it's hard to know when you're awakening what that false light might be, and how to discern that, and how to know if the energy is yours or isn't yours to carry. In a context that's practical, you mentioned the supermarket. I feel the same. I hate going into the supermarkets. Even now, I can do it, but I just hate it because I feel the dense energy in the space and it feels dead to me. The food feels dead. The people in there feel dead. The energy feels so dead that I struggle to be in that space. But like you, I'm at a stage where I have that protection and I have the power to be able to go in there, do the thing and leave, even though I don't like it. Whereas you mentioned part of your journey, that it was too much, it was overwhelming. So yeah, just kind of giving the listeners a bit of advice about how they can, as they're awakening, if the energy is theirs or not.
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple of things. The thing I would start with is your body truth. So if you're listening to this and you don't know what your body truth is, just think about a decision that you made that was the right decision. So the one I always go back to on this is when I got through to TEDx. So when I got that email through that said, you've made it through, my whole body lifted, and it was like, woo, like it was a lift of my energy. And I knew in that moment that that was the right decision, that I'd made the right decision to apply. Because actually at the time, this was when my anxiety was like really like coming in. I was like, oh, should I do this? Should I not? So when that came in, so I always go back to that feeling, because that's probably like quite a big thing. So I would encourage you to look back on, where did you make a decision that was the right one? And how does that make your body feel when you think about that? And then where is a decision that you made that wasn't the right one, and how does that make your body feel? So you can do that with like past feeling to help you understand. So for me, it's like a lifting, it's an expansion. Usually we find it's an expansion or a contraction. If we're not sure, grab yourself a pendulum. Those listening, I'm holding a pendulum. And ask your pendulum to show you, yes, okay, this is yes, pendulum, show me no. Okay, and you can then test your gut response against the pendulum. So if the pendulum says yes and you think no, I actually feel like it's a no, we can use it to test ourselves as well, or flip a coin. So the first thing is body truth, because then what we can do is we can use this with everything. And I use this with my clients in my quantum alignment program. Like, once we've got that core element in place, we can pull on that. So like I can then ask my body, right, body, did I pick up some dense energy in the supermarket today that I need to clear? Right, body, yes. So yes, no, we can get that response, or pendulum, yes, no. So firstly, that helps our discernment and our truth. And the more we practice that, the more we will build up that kind of knowing and that truth, and then therefore be able to set a boundary where needed. And then the second thing I want to say is about triggers. So sometimes the energy is yours in the way that it is triggering something in you. So if it's just like went to the supermarket and now I feel a bit tired, like me and my partner call this like eyeball drain, like where you get back and your eyes feel tired, like so we've taken in too much energy through the eyes. So if it's just like a bit of eyeball drain, if it's just like a bit of a bit tired, usually that's just energy you've picked up. If it's like a full-on trigger, and so I had this with someone that was really quite narcissistic, which brings us on to what you were saying, Shani, about like not everyone in the spiritual community has your best interests at heart. There's a lot of spiritual narcissism which you need to be aware of as well. And yeah, I had this with a really narcissistic person where I felt very strongly triggered, like my fight flight mode was triggered, my heart was racing, I would wake up in the night thinking about things that they'd said. And that was a very strong trigger. So yes, there was some boundaries I needed to have in place with this person, and actually like the narcissistic people, and I left my life after doing this work. But because it was such a strong emotional reaction in me, it was showing something in me that I needed to look at. And actually that narcissist was a mirror for a part of me that wasn't fully expressed, that I'd pushed down a long time ago. So I need to do some shadow work around that. So yeah, there's a difference there between, oh, I'm feeling a bit of energy like coming in, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, getting some thoughts. So thoughts can be a great, are you kind of getting these thoughts and you think, I don't normally have these thoughts? Like that's usually a sign that you've taken on someone else's energy. But if it's like a really strong emotional trigger, yes, it might not still be your energy, but it is in your field and it has triggered you. So it is something to work through. So it is something to take responsibility for.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, if it's just a versus a full-on trigger, and usually if it's a full-on trigger, like it is something that is linked to a part of us.
Yeah.
So that's how I would say body truth. And then is it just or is it actually a full-on like emotional reaction in my body? What would you say, Shani?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think the body truth is probably the thing that most women find the hardest to discern, because for so long women have been told to suppress those emotions and those feelings, and have been fully disconnected from their intuition. And in all sorts of different areas of the feminine realms, whether it's, you know, medical professionals that think they know better than the trust in our own bodies, whether it's through childbirth, where you end up outsourcing yourself to the man in the white coat because you're in fear, or they instill the fear in you, so you ignore your intuition, whether it's in the relationship that you know you need to get out of. You know, I mentioned it in my first podcast episode, in my own awakening story. My whole body was screaming at me not to move in with my abusive ex-partner, but I did it because I just thought that's what I should be doing, and everybody else around me was moving in with each other and getting married. I was 22. I was 22. I didn't need to move in with him. My whole body was saying don't do it, but I ignored it because I thought that's what society expected of me, and I had too much shame around admitting what was actually happening in the relationship, that I ignored that, even though, like you, I had the palpitations and the stomach sickness and the contraction and the tenseness. And, you know, I think so many women are taught to ignore that and suppress that. And that's been something that's been happening over lifetimes. And so body truth is one of the most important things that we can tune into, but not everybody knows how to do that. So it's really good that you explained, you know, the expansion versus the contraction. I definitely agree with that. You do know in yourself, you know, and it's just that we've been taught to doubt ourselves so much, and the things that other people have said to us, our parents, our teachers, authorities, if you're listening to governments or the systems or the news or whatever it is, you know in your body what's right for you. And yet I think many women do struggle to actually tune into their intuition and their discernment. So I think that's a really good point. And then with the triggers as well, yeah, I think triggers are always there to mirror to us something in us that needs to be addressed, whether it's the shadow aspect of ourselves or an unhealed part of ourselves, or something that's still we're living in our wounding that we need to transmute and work through and alchemize. Yeah, definitely those people are placed in our life to show us that. And until we actually move through that, they will just keep appearing in our lives in different forms, whether it's the narcissistic spiritual dude or woman, whether it's someone in authority, whether it's a boss at work or a partner or whoever it is, a friend, that same situation will just keep coming back in different forms, in different guises, until we are able to move through that shadow. So I think that was a good way of putting it. And, you know, I don't want to scare our listeners who might be at the very beginning of their awakening journey, but for sure that there are dark forces and elements at play out there. And so how would you suggest that if somebody is going through their awakening and thinks they're going crazy, because this is something that, you know, at the beginning of your awakening, you often feel, you get excited and then you start to feel like, oh my goodness, my world is crumbling apart. I'm going crazy. Am I experiencing psychosis? What is going on? Do I need to be institutionalized? I mean, maybe it's not that extreme, but I do think a lot of people experience at least thoughts of that. What we like, you know, what we know as the dark night of the soul, when you really, really enter the underworld, and literally it's like the biggest ego death you've ever had. In that state, how can you protect yourself from darker forces or entities or spirits or other life forms that might try and come in to challenge you or sabotage your journey?
Great question. And the answer isn't let's wave around some sage, by the way.
Yeah, it's not just about burning some sage. That might help initially, but it's deeper than that, right?
Yeah. So what I would say, and this is based on like my own lessons, is always make sure you are connected to source. So if you call in source, if you imagine, I mean, I even do this like visually, imagine that there is like, you know, I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that, where you're connected to the field. Like I almost imagine like this light coming down. I set that intention that light is source. It can be like a waterfall or just like a light beam. And then I step into it and I'm aligned into source. So whatever you do, like making sure that you are connected to source and that you are really, really grounded. This is like, firstly, to share, like, this is where I failed. because I went in and I connected to like different teachers and things, and it was for some of that journey, it was like, hey, let's just see what's going to come in. Like I've even had a, like, not to like name and shame anyone because I won't, but just, you know, I've even had like a teacher say, anything present today that wants to come in and help with this healing, like without setting a boundary or without connecting to source. So I've had to unpick and undo a lot of that journey with my quantum healing kit, because I was, you know, I was calling in everything because I just didn't know, like I didn't know about the dark, and it's not something to be scared of or worried about. But as long as, so firstly connecting to source only. Like if anyone tells you to connect to like other beings and things, like there was a time on this planet where that was useful. I would say for now, and especially early on in your journey, like don't be calling in all and sundry.
I mean, you wouldn't invite everyone else, and you wouldn't invite random people off the street into your house, would you?
No, that's what it's like, isn't it? Yeah, let's have a party. Come in.
Yeah,
Come
I
play
mean,
with my fine china.
yeah, like you discern who walks into your actual physical space.
Yeah.
Like you discern, you know, who do I let into my house? Do I trust this person? You know, do I want them, you know, having a cup of tea in my space and sharing energy with me and sharing food with me and whatever it is? And so we could probably use that as a really clear analogy, actually, of
great.
would you let this person into your house? Well, your body is your temple, it is your house, it is your sacred space. Your energy, your time, and your essence is sacred and belongs to you, and you get to choose who you let in and out of that space. You know, the same way that you say to someone, well, I want you to take your shoes off when you come in my house because I want to make sure it's clean. Like I want you to be a clean energy coming into my house. I don't want you bringing in your dirty laundry and your dirty baggage and your darkness into my space. Thank you very much. So I think that's a good question to kind of ask yourself, like, would I let them in my house? No, I'm not going to let them in my energy field.
I think there's a lot of, it's no one, like, I think there's a lot of misinformation about, like, and I don't want to name any of these like beings, but just, you know, there's a lot of misinformation about beings, and oh, call on this person for protection, call on this person, call on this person. And actually what you're doing is you're giving your energy away as you're doing that. Whereas if you just call on source and, or God, you know, if it might be God for you, like that one creator of all, call on source, call on God, you're pretty safe with that. And then the other thing I want to say is grounding. So I had a client the other day, and I have given her a task of going out into nature for an hour every day. And for some people, that's a lot. For some people, that might be, you know, might be easy. Even if that's going and just sitting on the grass in your garden. Like grounding, I've got my feet on my grounding mat at the moment. Like grounding mat, if you can't get out, if you're doing a lot of desk work, get yourself a grounding mat. You plug it into the mains. It's like what an electrician uses. And it starts to, you know, to ground you. You know, for anyone listening, that's a great, you know, great starting point. You need a lot of time in nature to, because all that light is coming through you as well, and it needs to go somewhere. So before you even think about like, what am I connecting to, what's coming in, what's everyone else's energy, like you need to ground your energy as a starting point, and that will help then protect you as well. They would be like the two beginner things, I would say. Like make sure you're not connecting to random beings, and you're just connected to like source or God, and that you are, that you're grounded. So grounding mat, nature, they'd be like the two simple things I would start with. What would you say, Shani?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think, you know, unless you live in the countryside, a lot of people do live busy lives in a city, in a house, in an isolated space. And we know that nature is just so important for absorbing, you know, the mother, she'll just take it, she'll hold it, she'll take your energy, she'll take your pain, your anger. You can go into the woods and scream it out and shout it out, and the trees will take it, the ground will take it, the feminine will be able to hold that, because she is chaotic and wild and vast herself. And calling upon direct source, whatever that is for you, whether it's, you call it source, God, the universe. I'm a bit dubious about universe, because I think that encompasses,
that could be a little bit too, let's all come in and have a party again, couldn't it?
I think it personally encompasses a lot of other things that I might not want to call in. So yeah, keeping it as clear and pure as possible, as you said, and then grounding, and actually, the connection between the heavens and the earth, and you are in between. So you are that connection in between the two, and knowing that you have that sovereignty in that space, I think is really, really important. I'm going to be releasing soon a beginner's journey for awakening women, those at the beginning of their journey. And I think these are the sorts of things that I remember at the beginning of my journey were just, if I didn't have people around me who could support me through this and explain to me. And even then, I went to a channeling course, and the lady was channeling all sorts of things that I thought was okay at the time. And looking back on it, I don't think half of her guides or channels were safe to me, maybe to her, but not to me. But at the beginning, I didn't know any different. And I did trust her, and I do trust her still, but as a human, just whether she was channeling the right beings for me, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Now I know that. At the time, I didn't. And so I just think it's always kind of at the beginning of your journey, like you said, it's that, oh, I want this and I want to try that and I want to do this and I want to do that. And we do all the things, and actually like stripping it back and just focusing on the clearing initially, and know that you don't have to try it all, and know that, at the beginning of your journey, you might find one thing that works really well for a period of time, and that takes you to the next level. And then you're like, oh, now I think I need to try this. For me, it was breath work. That's what helped me, because I was frozen and I needed something to help me move my body, like the energy that was stagnant and stuck in my body. I needed that, and it helped. And then I was able to listen to my emotions, and then all my rage and my fear and all of that came up. And then I had to work through that. And so it was just like, and then at the same time, I was seeing a spiritual coach that was helping me kind of on a more grounded, practical level in terms of moving forward in my life. And that helped me to make my decisions. And, so I think you find the people at the time that serve you, and they may not be there forever, and that's okay. And then you find different people on your path. I hadn't even heard of shamanism, for example. I didn't even know what that was at the time. I didn't know what quantum healing was. I didn't know about false light at the time. There was so much I didn't know. And I think at the beginning, you don't need to know it all. Like, you just need to keep following the breadcrumbs and the synchronicities, and listening to your body truth, and following where your heart is taking you, and know and trust yourself that that is where you need to go. And that's something that I really want to teach in my new journey that I'm going to be putting out to women, for the awakening woman who's excited about it all, but literally doesn't know where to turn and feels overwhelmed and confused and doesn't understand where to go next. And I want to create a space where it's safe and really digestible lessons and teachings and experiences that you can walk away thinking, oh, now I know how to tune into my discernment. I'm empowered to do that. I don't need to keep outsourcing myself all the time. And that's kind of what I wish someone had done for me at the beginning of my journey, which is why I want to create this for women. Because had I had that at the very beginning, maybe I wouldn't have felt like I was going so crazy. I
think that's so important. And I think doing this, like holding space for women in this journey is just, it's incredible. And the discernment that you bring to that, Shani, is just going to be amazing. And that's like something else popped in my head around that, actually. Like, don't be afraid to question your coaches, mentors, teachers. So I've had people come to me. I've trained in some different energy modalities in the past, and have had to go through lessons with that and about certain teachers and healers. And actually, if your teacher, healer, guide, mentor has not healed their trauma, then you can pick that energy up from them. So I always say to people, like, I would not be offended if someone said to me, do you do your own trauma work? Do you do your own healing work? Do you do your own shadow work? My expectation of anyone working with energy is that they've done their energy work, that they've done their shadow work. And it was even a conversation that we had, Shani. So when I reached out to Shani about trying breath work, I said, can I just check with you, Shani? Like, do you only work with source? It was obvious, I already knew that you did shadow work. Like, we already had that conversation, but I'm very discerning. Like, I only work with like And I would, I would encourage people to ask me those questions if they weren't sure. So just be like, for anyone listening or watching, like, don't be afraid to ask. Like,
Absolutely.
do you do your own healing work? Because I've heard that can, you can pass your traumas on to me.
Yeah.
Because that is not like, that is completely light washed over. And that is something that I feel we need to talk about. So yeah, be discerning about who you work with.
Absolutely agree
And
with
ask
you.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. I did an Instagram post like how do you know if you can trust your healer? And like one of the things I wrote was, ask them questions. Like if you don't even feel comfortable to ask them the questions, then your body truth is going, no. Like if you feel scared of them, or you think that they're like the guru and they know it all, like we're all humans. Like we all experience human experiences. We're all fallible. Like don't put anybody on a pedestal, and I think, yeah, you can say, or has my healer been healed? But we're all still healing. So I'm really honest with my clients. I'll say like, well, I can take you there because I've been there. Not just that I'm trained in X, Y, and Z, but I've been there. I have lived the experience, but I still have this, this, and this. Like I'm still going through that myself, but it's just that I'm ahead of you a few years down the line of where you might be now. But I was you at one point, and I had to go to someone to help me at that point. And so it's, I don't think we can expect our healers to be fully healed because we're humans living a human experience in a very, very chaotic and crazy world. But I do think you're absolutely right about being able to ask the questions. And if you don't even like their communication style, like if you don't feel like if they dismiss you or they just brush you off or you don't feel heard by them, then, maybe they're not the person to be working with. Because when you're doing this kind of work with a healer, like you want to feel safe in the space. That has got to be your number one priority and your top like value of what you're looking for in a healer. For me, it's like, do I feel safe? And I'm like you, I'm very discerning, and I don't actually work with a lot of people these days because I don't, I'm quite quick to sniff out the false light and the very surface level healing. I just can't go for. I need very deep holding. And that's also how I like to hold my clients. I like to hold them very deeply. I don't like to scratch the surface. That's not what we're here to do. And so it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for surface scratching, maybe
don't come to us.
Don't come to us.
And
and that's okay. If that is all you're able to go with at the beginning, then find the person that can do that for you. But if you're looking for a depth and you're looking to be deeply held in a safe space, then again, like you said, ask those questions. I think it's really important. We're just going to wrap up now. I'm so grateful that you came on the show to talk today. I always ask my guests one question, and that is, what does being a liberated woman mean to you?
Amazing question. For me, it is about being connected to our bodies, which we talked a bit about today. Being connected to our bodies, being able to discern our truth and then take action based on that truth. So it's like connected to the divine, discern our truth and go take the action to live our best, most expressed lives.
Love it. Yes, most expressed lives. I love that. Amazing. Thank you, Gemma. I'm going to put all of your links in the show notes. So if listeners are interested in any of the work you do, they can find you there, and you can contact Gemma, and keep an eye out for my new journey, Awaken. It's going to be a 4-week online journey for the awakening woman who is looking for a safe space to come and learn how to discern, how to feel really safe in the beginning stages of their awakening. And I'll be posting more about that soon. Thank you so much, Gemma, for coming on the show.
Amazing. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited for your course and everyone that joins.
You're welcome. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Bye.